How do you expose a gold digger? I was sitting in my apartment Friday evening when my older brother Camden called, asking if I'd met his new girlfriend yet. He'd just gotten promoted to senior architect, finally making real money after his brutal divorce. Now he was telling me about this woman named Sloane, who worked at an art gallery downtown, describing how sophisticated and cultured she was. We made plans for dinner Sunday at this upscale Italian place. I showed up in khakis, feeling underdressed the moment I walked in. Camden was already seated with a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her handshake was firm but brief, and I noticed the designer watch catching the light. When the check came, Sloane made a show of reaching for her purse, but Camden waved her off and pulled out his credit card without hesitation. The next few weeks brought more dinners where Sloane integrated herself into our family with impressive efficiency. She showed up to our parents' anniversary party with expensive wine and flowers. My younger sister Ivy took to her immediately. I noticed Sloane never drove herself anywhere, always arriving with Camden, always mentioning her car was in the shop. 3 months in, Camden mentioned he was thinking about asking Sloane to move in. The timeline felt fast, but I didn't want to rain on his happiness. The first crack appeared during a family barbecue. Sloane was describing a shopping trip to designer outlets, but the details were wrong. Stores that didn't exist there, layouts that didn't match. Later, I found her in the kitchen looking through my dad's financial mail. She quickly set it down when she saw me, laughing about being nosy. Summer brought more observations. Sloane's stories about her job became vaguer when pressed. When I mentioned wanting to visit the Meridian Gallery to see her work, she quickly explained her role was mostly behind the scenes. I decided to do some research and pulled up the gallery website. Sloane's name didn't appear anywhere. Not in the staff directory, not in any exhibition credits. I called the gallery directly, asking to speak with Sloane Whitley. The receptionist put me on hold before returning to say they had no one by that name on staff. When I described her, the receptionist suggested I might be thinking of someone else. My stomach dropped as I hung up the phone. That evening I drove to Camden's house unannounced. Sloane was supposedly at a gallery event running late. I showed Camden the website and explained about the phone call, watching his face cycle through confusion, denial, and finally, defensive anger. He insisted there must be a mistake, that maybe she worked as a contractor. When I suggested he ask her directly, he accused me of trying to sabotage his relationship because I was jealous. We argued for 20 minutes before I left. Camden didn't speak to me for the next week, ignoring my calls. Ivy called the following Saturday, asking why Camden was upset. I explained about the gallery. She went quiet, before admitting she'd also noticed inconsistencies. Sloane always had reasons why she couldn't pick up checks, usually blaming frozen accounts or delayed payments. Ivy realized Sloane had never actually paid for anything substantial. Every dinner, every event, somehow ended with Camden covering her expenses. My sister suggested we do more digging, gathering enough evidence that he couldn't dismiss our concerns. We started with social media, finding Sloane's Instagram filled with luxury experiences and designer possessions. Scrolling back revealed a pattern of different luxury cars, handbags, and 5-star hotels. Ivy noticed many photos were taken at the same locations months apart, but posted as current, reusing content to maintain an illusion. We found older photos from 3 years ago showing a completely different aesthetic before her content shifted dramatically to high-end lifestyle. Something was very wrong, and we needed to figure out what before Camden got seriously hurt. The breakthrough came when Ivy discovered a news article from 5 years ago about a woman named Sloane Whitley, arrested for credit card fraud in a neighboring state. The photo looked remarkably similar to Camden's girlfriend. The article mentioned she'd used multiple aliases and targeted wealthy divorced men, accumulating debt in their names before disappearing. I felt sick reading the details because they aligned perfectly with what we'd observed. Sunday morning, I drove to Camden's house without calling first. I knocked repeatedly until Camden answered, looking annoyed. I told him we needed to talk immediately, that I had information he needed to see. He tried to close the door, but I stuck my foot in the gap, holding up my phone showing the fraud arrest article. His face went pale as he stared at the photo. He let me inside, and we sat at his kitchen table while I showed him everything Ivy and I had compiled. But what we found when we checked his bank accounts made everything so much worse than we'd imagined. The full story is on my channel or linked below.